What's up, Voicey veterans? This is your host, Captain Zach, and welcome to the evening show. Today's subreddit is actually a hybrid. We're doing one story from Tales from Retail and another from NuclearRevenge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This first story is called, I'm Just Going to Take a Nap. My old work was in an area with a lot of vagrants and drug addicts. I'm not sure if this woman was on something or just spent too much time in the heat, but here goes the story. Here's the cast for our story. There's a woman, my boss, and me. We are in a retail shop that sells arcades. We have, behind the showroom, a large section of games in line to be refurbished or stripped down for parts. My boss is in the restroom and I hear the doorbell. I'm just a tech at this time, so I'm already uneasy. Then I realized it's one of the homeless people that wander our parking lot. Is everything okay? The woman mumbles very fast and incoherent in response, and then in my head I'm thinking, oh flip, what do I do? And I say out loud, are you okay? Do you need something? I'm fine. The woman replied, repeating very fast between 6 and 10 times before saying, I'm just going to go home and take a nap. Oh, she's leaving, thank God. I think to myself, and then I say out loud, okay, you be safe. Okay, I will. This is when she heads straight for the wall of unbuilt games and starts climbing up them, knocking over a whole pile of parts that was in front of them. You can't go up there. It's fine, I'm fine. This is my house. I sleep here all the time. No, it's not. This is a business. You don't live here. My boss heard the crash of parts, I guess, and finally comes out. Is everything okay? What fell? Come here now, I need help. What the hell? He doesn't even stop for a second and grabs the woman by her ankle and pulls her off the machine and starts pushing her to the door. You need to get out of my store right now or I will call the cops. I want to sleep on the She went back to fast, incoherent mumbling. Boss now had to push her all the way out the door before taking a fist to the face. He gave one good shove out the door and pulled a pistol out of his pocket. He doesn't really point it at anyone, he's just making sure she sees it and yells, I will use this if I have to! That's when a homeless man popped out of nowhere and guided the woman off. My boss put his gun away and locked the door. Well, that's enough excitement for one day. I'm going home. If you choose to stay, just keep the door locked. If we get any customers, just tell them that we had an emergency and to come back later. Very interesting story with a very good ending. I'm very happy with how everything was handled. However, mumbling homeless women climbing on arcade cabinets would probably be very terrifying. Alright guys, this next story is quite a bit of a doozy, but if you stick with it, it is worth it. And the name of it is, How I Destroyed My Ex-Employer and Took Over His Company. During my university studies, I got into Forex trading, ETFs, brokerage and arbitrage, and etc. I made some nice money out of it, but I never really put so much effort into it. It brought enough for a comfortable life, but as it was not related to what I studied, biochemistry, and I really wanted to concentrate on my future on what I actually studied for, I considered it to be a hobby. During the original stellar rise of Bitcoin, I made some serious money. At one time, I had nearly €1 million in my bank account. With that kind of money, where I am from, there is really nothing you cannot buy. Once my university studies were over, I returned to my home country. Once there, I started the master's degree in a field related to biochemistry. But I also started looking for a job in the finance sector to make money. At the risk of sounding arrogant, I am a tremendously good financier, despite the lack of any formal training, except from what I taught myself from online lectures and days upon days of reading finance-related textbooks from reputable sources. After some job hunting, I landed a job in a company founded and run by Old Boss. Old Boss was a strong, iron-fisted man. He would involve himself in micromanagement of every employee, and I was no exception. During the job interview, he personally led the interview and asked me things among the lines of, You are, obviously, not talented or intelligent. Why should we hire you? And also making multiple unveiled remarks about my race. Where I'm from, there are 2 major races in the country and I belong to the minority, although I have never identified myself to anyone as such. By some miracle, I managed to preserve my cool and present him with documentation relating to my activities in the previous year, with bank statements providing how much money I made, etc. That shuts him up. I ended up getting hired with a respectable wage and flexible hours, most of which can be worked at home. I am in heaven. I was assigned to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies trading, working a company-owned account. The account through which I was to trade was owned by the company, and I was provided daily with a two-factor authentication code to be able to log in and do my trades. I would also receive premiums on what I earned the company. So, I transferred just over 40 Bitcoins from my personal wallet to the company account's wallet to play big and earn nice premiums. It worked like a charm. The first month, my premiums were more than my wage. The second month, they were nearly 4 times my wage. I was making very nice money. Then came what was probably the worst day of my life. Just over 5 months after I started the job, I get called into HR. Apparently, I was not making them as much money as I promised. I made no promises, by the way, and I was not making as much as other Bitcoin traders. I made nearly as much as the rest of the department, a whole 8 people combined. Well, there's really nothing to be done at this point. Really, I'm fired, period. I go to my computer to transfer my 40 Bitcoins from the company account to my personal wallet. I am locked out. Someone changed the password. I let my supervisor know. His response is a derisive, "So?" I go higher. I receive no response. Apparently, the order for my firing came from old boss himself. He responded to my queries with, "Eat a cake. You'll feel better about it." 3 weeks later, I am informed that everything in the company account wallet belongs to the company, and I was so informed in the contract of the employment. I go through the contract, there is no such clause. So I take them to court. The first time the court is convened, old boss is personally there. The first hour or so is just me explaining to the judge what Bitcoin is and how it works. He is sympathetic to my cause, but as there is no law in my country even coming close to regulating cryptocurrencies, they are not considered either currency or commodity. There is nothing that can be done. The look on old boss's face, that smug look, that feces-consuming grin of self-contentment, it's murderously infuriating. I am robbed of 40 Bitcoins. Undiluted, soul-wrenching hatred towards old boss births a revenge plan in me. I was robbed of 40 Bitcoins. You'll lose everything, old boss. But first, I need to be in a position to hurt him. I decide to found a company working in the same sector as old boss's company. But before I found it, I need reliable people around me. I start hunting for fellas. My search for months is fruitless. Everyone in the cryptocurrency market in my country knows who old boss is and will not go against the man. Everyone except one. I was about to give up when I hear one of the 3 vice CEOs of old boss's company, Nice Guy, has resigned in protest. Bear in mind, Nice Guy was a very nice guy. He would always personally ask me if I needed anything and if I had suggestions on how my department should run. Apparently, he did that with everyone. I ask around why he resigned and surprise, surprise, he resigned in protest of how old boss's treatment of their employees and their customers was highly unethical. Apparently, long before I got in the picture, old boss's company had made a habit of screwing both their employees and customers, and Nice Guy was very antagonistic to this approach. From what a close friend of Nice Guy said to me, Nice Guy was particularly outraged over my firing, as he considered a minority working and succeeding at old boss's company would be a good supporter of racial integration and an important marketing opportunity. I contacted Nice Guy. I explained to him, barring no secret, what my plan was. Suffice it to say that he was apprehensive at first. He probably thought I was crazy. Every question he asked, I replied with an answer. Over 2 months, I finally wore him down to acceptance. He became my greatest ally, advisor, and one of my closest friends. Hence, we founded my company, with an initial capital of 100,000 euros. Nice Guy and I worked very hard to succeed. We made a goal of doubling the company's worth every year. We expanded into capital investment and retail banking and forex trading. Within 3 years, my company's net worth was well over 9 million euros. At which point, old boss took serious notice. He invites us over to his company's HQ and proposes to buy us out for 5.9 million euros, and assures us that we would retain our positions and my company would simply become a subsidiary of his. Working again as an employee for old boss? Don't think so. I get up to leave, go to the door, and turn around and say, I ate that particular cake before. Didn't agree with me. I turn around and leave. We continue to be wildly successful for the next 2 years. Our working ethic, especially in retail banking, was solve the problem without hurting anyone. It worked. Before we knew, we started taking customers away from old boss's company. This, coupled with old boss's lavish lifestyle, the man owned 2 Lamborghinis, who even needs 2, put his company in a tight spot. With the higher administration going south after Nice Guy's departure and the lower floors having virtually no drive to work or earn the company any serious income, the company was beginning to stagnate. At this point, in late September 2017, old boss's company peaked at a net worth of 96.2 million euros. Despite the ownership of over 100 million euros of assets, they were lacking liquidity, which is immediately available money such as cash or money in bank accounts. Instead, old boss had a lot of land. Expensive, but doesn't really bring in a lot of money. Worst investment form ever. As the central bank of my country is not very resilient in terms of financial power either, there is only a limited amount of liquidity they can provide for old boss's company, which incurs debts to the central bank. Realty industry has essentially been dead in my country for some time now. So there is no chance of selling that land at a profit and only a meager chance of selling it at a loss. Old boss's company sells what they can sell at a loss for liquid funds, and for more liquidity needs, they increasingly borrow money from the central bank. It is still not enough, and old boss does not sacrifice his luxurious and extravagant lifestyle to save money. They finally resort to issuing bonds to bring in money. The way bonds work in my country is that whosoever holds the bond at the maturation date can demand payment of the bond. Bonds that have passed their maturation date can be demanded payment at any time. I hire people to buy old boss's bonds as they come out. I ended up buying 116 of the 120 bonds issued by old boss's company. Each bond was valued at 100,000 euros for a total of 12 million euros, of which 11.6 million euros is held by me. The maturation date is 1 year and the interest over that time period is 16.5%. The money brought in by the bonds kept old boss's company afloat for a while, but without hot money to keep the lights on, they soon began to struggle once again. They tried to issue even more bonds, but the central bank did not allow them, as they already had 12 million euros worth of outstanding bonds without factoring in interest. Instead, they did an IPO, an initial public offering, and decided to sell 40% of the company in stock at 0.1% a share. I bought, some from the old boss directly, but most from third persons, 36.4% of those shares. At that point, old boss's company was still valued over 90 million euros. So, the purchase of stock nearly broke me. I owned 36.4% of old boss's company and held, including the interest, nearly 18 million euros of his debt in bonds. Due in most part to Nice Guy's undying direction, I navigate this burden without too much difficulty, but the main test is still to come. The shares I hold give me access to old boss's company's financial records, and there are lots of irregularities. It looks like tax evasion. I notify the central bank. The central bank finally takes a stand and bears down hard on old boss's company. What they find upon inspection is astounding. Embezzlement, laundering, fraudulence, tax fraud, and the list goes on. The fallout is massive. All companies in the sector, including us, are inspected down to the last penny. We have done our work well. We pass with flying colors. Old boss gets fined 3.6 million euros, including back taxes. He cannot pay. He is broke, so is the company. A virtual monopoly in the sector goes belly up. They do not hold any liquid assets. Realty is still stagnating. Customers are in a bank run and money is not flowing in. They have only one option. They sell 10% more of the old boss's company at 1% a share, at half price. Some people buy, I track them down and buy them all at regular price. They made a lot of money. I now own 46.4% of old boss's company. The final sale puts old boss's company in profit. They massively downsize. Within a week, the payroll is reduced by half. They sell their now extraneous offices, company cars are sold away. As they struggle to bear the storm, I begin gathering clouds for mine. The day for my victory has come at long last. I have my CFO, an unknown person to them, call Old Boss's company to set up a meeting in my name, an anonymous shareholder, to discuss business strategies. On the day of the meeting, I walk into Old Boss's company 10 minutes early. They still do not know that I practically own them. I walk right into the office block. He's talking to his officers in the corridor right outside the meeting room. He sees me, looks at me like I'm some insect, and goes, "I have a meeting in 10 minutes with some very important people. Whatever it is, leave it with my secretary." I know. Let's talk then. I open the glass door to the meeting room and walk in and sit down. For a second, he looks confused. Then, comprehension dawns on his face. Along with it, terror. Undiluted, pure, soul-wrenching terror of what is about to happen. He knows now. He understands. He knows I hold the shares. He knows I hold the bonds. He understands I am about to take everything away from him. He only manages to mutter one word. Oh. The meeting is short. I return the bonds to be rendered null and void for another 12% of Old Boss's company. I walk away with 58% of the company. Since I am now the majority shareholder, I dissolve the board of directors on the spot and appoint Nice Guy to convene a replacement. The termination letter to Old Boss is written the same day. "We are saddened to inform you that you have been relieved of your duty in Old Boss's company." His personal debts to the company are astronomical. Over the next month, we wrestle away most of his remaining shares and distribute them among the employees they laid off in their downsizing, along with 6 months of wages. Old Boss ends up with 0.3% of the company's shares. Since taking over Old Boss's company, we reversed its fortunes. It's only making baby steps towards recovery, but we are making progress. Using my powers over the company, I move towards an integration of operations with my own company, smoothing out operations and disposing of unnecessary expenditures. Old Boss boycotts all board of directors meetings, which he has the right to observe as a shareholder. His shares being 0.3%, next to insignificant, it barely makes any difference. My revenge is now complete. I not only avenged myself, but also the hundreds of other people he victimized. Old Boss went to prison 2 months ago for a variety of convictions, totaling 16.5 years. He now atones for his sins. Did I or did I not tell you that this was going to be a doozy? Alright, this is probably the best nuclear revenge there is, because not only did our Redditor, hero, whatever you want to call him, completely demolish the Old Boss, but he also got revenge on behalf of the other victims. This is thorough and amazing revenge. This guy is a genius. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.